Welcome into NBA Today. I'm George Sedano in for Malika Andrews. Matt Barnes is here with me in studio. NBA champion Matt Barnes, of course. And we have a whole crew of guests joining us throughout the show. But first, we have to get to the biggest story in the NBA. Hours after our show yesterday, ESPN NBA senior insider Adrian Wojnarowski reported that Kyrie Irving decided to exercise his $36.5 million option for the coming season and will remain under contract with the Brooklyn Nets. The seven-time All-Star averaged 27.4 points, 5.8 assists this past season. He's about to enter the final season in a four-year, $137 million deal with Brooklyn. So now we welcome in Woj to the show, the best in the business. Adrian Wojnarowski is now joining us here. All right, Woj, what can you tell us about how Irving eventually decided to opt into his deal by exercising into his player option?
You know, George, essentially, Kyrie Irving had exhausted really his options to get the kind of long-term deal he wanted either elsewhere or in Brooklyn. Wasn't available to him in sign and trade. It wasn't available to him with the Nets. And so he takes that $36.5 million player option on his deal for the year and hits the reset button now next season, next summer in free agency. And listen, we see what happens here moving forward with the Nets as they try to put a roster, continue to build a roster around Kyrie Irving. You know, Kevin Durant, listen, he could still be traded. Essentially, he goes now from, the idea of a sign and trade if he'd opted out to now he's an expiring contract that perhaps is available. But I think as long as Kevin Durant is committed and wants to be in Brooklyn, then Kyrie Irving will be there this season as his teammate.
So it feels like basically they just kind of kicked the can down the road just a little bit.
Absolutely.
Just to see what their options are. How do you think this potentially could play out for them to repair this relationship, perhaps, if that's the proper term to use?
Whether it's repairing a relationship, George, or, deciding that this is where they want to be, that they really want to continue building a team in Brooklyn, building a partnership there. The Nets certainly have some decisions to make, and some players have some decisions to make. Patty Mills has a player option on his deal to exercise and make a decision about whether he'll be there. And this is a Nets team that altogether with a healthy Ben Simmons certainly, is formidable, is talented enough to compete with anybody in the league. But I think Kevin Durant, who's on a 4-year deal, he starts that this year. I think communication between he and the front office is going to be important, and Kyrie Irving, for everyone to start talking about leading this team, moving this group forward, and doing more than just opting into contracts, doing more than just signing an extension like Kevin Durant did, and figuring out how they can grow this team. And I think there's still a lot of steps as a group that this team has to take.
Fair enough. So there were some other moves going on around the NBA, including point guard John Wall, who was bought out by the Rockets. How did that happen, and what's next for Wall?
Yeah, George, obviously he and the Rockets decided he'd sit last year. He had a year left on his deal, and once the Rockets could not find a trade for John Wall, they moved to a buyout, got an agreement, and now I'm told that John Wall, once free agency opens, that his intention is to talk to the Clippers and find a way to get a deal with them. He has been, focused on them. Certainly he can look at that Clipper team, and see that certainly they could use more playmaking and ball handling to join Reggie Jackson in that backcourt. So once, he clears waivers and then he's eligible and allowed to talk to the Clippers after 6 p.m. on Thursday, then he and the Clippers can start to figure out a potential deal there. But I'm told, as we reported last night, that John Wall's plan in his mind is to sign with a Clipper team.
And, of course, there's Russell Westbrook with the Los Angeles Lakers. He posted a video on social media of him jamming to Beyonce. And I guess he's got 47 million to do that, or 47 million reasons to do that. What's the latest on Russ?
Yeah, as expected, I'm told that his agent, Thad Fouché, sent in the formal letter today opting into that $47 million on his deal. So now Russell Westbrook is in the final year of that $206 million contract that he signed way back in Oklahoma City. And, Westbrook had told me recently, he's really hit it off with Darvin Ham, really connected with him, excited to play for him this season. And so, I think for Russell Westbrook, the chance for he and LeBron James and Anthony Davis to do more than play only 21 games together, that's going to be a big part of this, George.
And then, of course, right before we hit air here, you reported something on the Utah Jazz. What's the latest on them?
Yeah, they've offered their head coaching job to Will Hardy, assistant coach with the Boston Celtics. Hardy is planning to accept the job. They're just finalizing terms on a deal. But Will Hardy, who was with Ime Udoka in Boston this year, previously came up in the Spurs organization under Greg Popovich, 34 years old, really blew the Jazz away in their process. He made strong impressions on the Knicks a couple years ago in their interview process, Oklahoma City. It was just a matter of time before he got a job, and now he'll replace Quinn Snyder with the Utah Jazz. So Will Hardy will leave Boston and join up in Utah, and he'll be there to coach Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and this Jazz team that, they're trying to kind of reassemble here in the offseason and see if they can get them a little deeper in the playoffs.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.